I do want to talk about the alliance because obviously it continues today, and I'd love to get your thoughts on where it is. But let me just first, you talk about the discomfort that people had with your leadership being a major factor in what, was, you're saying, are politically motivated charges. I know you were a hero at one point. There was a comic book done about you. When did you sense it turned? I mean, did you, in retrospect, I know it was seen as sort of the alliance was, uneasy, I suppose is the right way to describe it. Did you sense that there was a resentment against you prior to your arrest?
In fact, I think the problem started with the famous Florence law that the French have voted in 2015, where they've given double voting rights for the shareholders owning the share for more than 2 years. And as you know, the French government had 15% of shares in Renault, and Nissan had 15% of shares in Renault. So, and Nissan was denied the voting rights. So you ended up having, between the French state and Nissan, equal shares in Renault, but the French state having double voting rights and Nissan having 0 voting rights. This was the start of the problem. A lot of executives in Nissan were really shocked by the attitude of the French state refusing to Nissan the right to vote. And obviously they shared this with the Métis in Japan. And, this is where the trust started to be lost between Nissan from one side, Renault from the other, between the Japanese government from one side and the French government from the other. But no action was taken in 2015, 2016, because frankly, I fought as much as I could the Florence law in France. But when in 2018, my mandate was renewed in France as the head of Renault, and the French government said, yes, we are supporting the candidacy of myself as the head of Renault, but on the condition that he makes this alliance irreversible. Then some doubts started to show in the mind of many Japanese executives, the most conservative one, and also at the level of the Métis. And I think they came to the conclusion that if they want to stop this train, where we would go for not a merger, but a quasi-merger with the French government still shareholder of this big entity, that the best way to stop the train is to get rid of me. And in fact, they've been very successful, because when they have arrested me and they knew that I could not defend myself or try to counterattack in front of this plot, they got what they wanted. Today, when you see the new agreement between Renault and Nissan that has been accepted from both sides, including from the French government, Nissan is getting back its voting rights at 15%. Renault will be voting only with 15%, and the rest of the share that they have, they'll put it in trust. So at the end of the day, what could have been resolved peacefully before 2018 was not possible without the plot and the coup that the old boys in Nissan organized, I would say in collusion with the Métis, to try to put me out of the game and in a certain way square their conflict or their quarrel with the French government. And frankly, they were successful. But this was on detriment of the performance of Nissan. At the end of the day, what you see is Nissan is going back slowly but surely to what it was before 1999, with the same problems, and in my opinion, with the same outcome.
Well, let me, before I follow up, same problems being what? How would you describe the problems today that you're seeing?
Well, frankly, I think when you compare Nissan in 2023 to Nissan in 2018, 2018, Nissan was part of the largest automotive group in the world, working hand in hand as a partner with Renault with Mitsubishi. And you can say it, I was preparing to have Fiat Chrysler joining this alliance. We had advanced talk with John Elkann, and we have planned a meeting in January 2019 to finalize the agreement. Unfortunately, the people struck in November, and this had to be cancelled. So when you compare the revenues of Nissan, the cash flow of Nissan, the profit of Nissan, the share of Nissan, the stock price of Nissan in 2018, you compare it to today, the revenues, the sales, the cash flow, the profit, and the level of the share, and particularly when you compare it not only to Nissan in 2018, but also to Toyota or to Honda in 2023, you can measure in a very, very concrete way how much the company declined. And on top of this masquerade of an alliance that they are talking about today has nothing to do with the depth and the seriousness and the intensity of the work which existed between the three companies in 2018. Today we have a facade of an alliance, and the last, frankly, chapter was this conflict, this very, strange conflict between the CEO and the COO, where the COO was defenestrated without any shareholder. I think the shareholder meeting took place today. I was reading the report made by Nissan Motors. It's interesting that there was not one single question about why the COO left the company. There are not one single question about the lawsuit I was bringing against the company. And which was the most interesting is they said that there were 243 shareholders participating to the meeting, while I can tell you that when I was the CEO of the company for 19 years, I had an average of 2,000 shareholders participating, which means it was a kind of organized show made in a very disciplined way in Japan, where there was zero transparency about all the struggles and the conflicts and the problem existing inside the company.